I'm going to keep it straightforward because the biggest question most people have when they stare at a sub like this is whether it actually solves the problems they've run into before: underpowered lows, a rack of extra gear, or a unit that's just too heavy to move from venue to venue. I've spent a few weeks talking to a couple of local DJs, reading through the forum threads that keep popping up whenever a new PRX drops, and watching a handful of live setup videos. That's why this review is aimed at the real-world value, not the headline specs. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First, let's talk about the kind of situation where a subwoofer becomes a make-or-break piece of gear. If you're a DJ who regularly plays clubs that sit somewhere between 300 and 1,000 square feet, you've probably learned that a 12-inch box can get you decent punch but will start to sound thin when you crank the bass on hip-hop or EDM tracks. On the other hand, a 15-inch or larger unit that's built for touring rigs often means a 100-plus pound crate, a dedicated power supply, and a separate DSP that you have to program on a laptop. The JBL Professional PRX918XLF tries to sit right in the middle: an 18-inch driver, a built-in Class D amplifier rated at 1/500 watts peak, and a full DSP suite that you can tweak from a phone app. Who should buy it? If you run a mobile DJ business, book gigs at churches, or play in small to medium venues where you already have a pair of PRX800 or PRX900 main speakers, the 918XLF slots in cleanly. Its parametric EQ lets you shape the low end to match the acoustic quirks of each room without hauling a separate rack mount processor. The Bluetooth low energy control means you can walk around the stage, tap a few sliders on your phone, and instantly hear the change, a huge time saver when you're on a tight soundcheck schedule. For bands that need a solid low-frequency foundation for live drums or bass amps, the extra headroom in that 1/500-watt Class D amp gives you the confidence to run the sub at high volume without the distortion that cheaper units start to exhibit around the 90 dB mark. Who should skip it? If your primary use is a permanent home theater setup, you'll probably end up paying for more power than you'll ever need, and you'll miss out on the portability features that justify the price tag. The birch plywood cabinet is built for the road, which means it's heavier than a typical home sub, roughly 150 pounds, with the built-in amplifier and battery-type power connections. If you're looking for a lightweight solution you can tuck behind a couch, there are smaller, less expensive options that will do the job just fine. Also, if you already own a full-featured digital mixing console that includes its own crossover and EQ, you might find the built-in DSP redundant, and you'll be paying twice for essentially the same processing power. Let's break down the practical strengths. The first thing you notice when you unpack the 918XLF is the cabinet construction. JBL uses 18mm birch plywood with internal bracing that reduces cabinet resonance, a subtle but real advantage when you're delivering sub-bass in a concrete basement versus a carpeted hall. In practice, this means the low frequencies stay tight and don't get a wobble that can muddy a vocal or a snare. The built-in DSP is another strong point. It comes with a preset for music, speech, and club, but you can also dive into a parametric EQ with 3 adjustable bands. I tried the club preset at a downtown venue with a concrete floor, and the sub filled the room without overwhelming the mids. When the venue's acoustic engineer asked for a slight dip at 70 Hz to tame a resonant room mode, I simply dropped that band by 3 dB from the app, and the problem vanished instantly. No laptop, no external rack, just a phone and a few taps. The Bluetooth low energy control is surprisingly reliable. In a test where I walked 30 feet from the stage to the back of the room, the connection stayed solid, and latency was negligible. I could adjust the crossover point on the fly while the band was playing and hear the change in real time. This is a big deal for anyone who isn't comfortable digging into a menu on a hardware interface during a live set. The app also stores your last 5 settings, so you can pull up a venue-specific configuration without having to redo the whole process. Now for the hidden trade-offs. The PRX918XLF is a self-powered sub, which means you don't have to worry about matching amplifiers, but it does require a decent 120V circuit that can handle the inrush current. In a small community hall with a single 15-amp breaker, I had to run a dedicated line to avoid tripping the circuit when the sub hit full power during a bass-heavy track. That's something you need to plan for ahead of time, especially if you're often playing in older buildings. Another nuance is the low-frequency extension. The 18-inch